This podcast is sponsored in part by Coke, Am First, Buffalo Wild Wings, Southern Immediate Care, Ann's Quilts, and Central State Bank. Now, back to Bubba on the Lake.
Hey, it's Bubba, hey, Bubba, Bubba on the lake. This is Bubba, hey, Bubba, Bubba on the lake. Yeah, he's got it going on. Gotta come and check this. Talking people, talking places from Bubba's perspective. This is Bubba, hey, Bubba on the lake. Hey, Bubba, yeah, Bubba on the lake. Let's go.
Well, we're back, and Betty, we have a very special guest with us during this segment.
One that I finally got to meet after all these years.
You know, it's not every day you look up and a congressman sitting at your breakfast table.
Or coming down the driveway in a golf cart.
No, that was a little shocking, too. Jerry Carl, Alabama District 1. Jerry, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Bubba, I think the last time I saw you was in Birmingham. It was about 5:30 in the morning. I think I was carrying a bunch of biscuits in.
You were. You were a guest on our old show several times.
Well, I want to tell you, your studio has stepped up a notch. I mean, the view from here is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know why anybody would want to work with a view like that.
I know.
And your staff is certainly looking much better.
Yes. I like the accommodations here very much. Well, welcome to the Meliella studio, and we're glad to have you back. Like I said, we've had you on before, and since then, me and you both are out of a job.
Yeah,
so
pretty much,
here we are.
Pretty much,
but we're enjoying a better view.
Hey,
you know?
If this was what you call retired, I'm pretty good with it.
Because you're fishing tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we're up here fishing.
So tell me, just catch everybody up. What are you doing now?
So I'm helping a little bit to some local businesses, trying to get some simple management issues straightened out. Certainly not being paid for it, but I'm also working trying to get a position on Trump's administration. So been working. I tell this story, and I probably shouldn't, but I've been offered 2 positions so far, and I've turned those 2 down.
Well, can you tell us what they are? Is that secret stuff?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't get into that. But it was 2 positions that I truly didn't want. I just felt like it didn't fit my personality. But the third one that I'm working on now, which we expect it any time, or it could go into as far as June, but it's actually going to be in the maritime industry, which I'm from Mobile, obviously, and we got a huge port down there.
You're all about that.
It's called the Federal Maritime Commission. There's 5 commissioners, and they're pretty much responsible for all import, exports, any ship that comes into America.
Oh, that's cool.
It's basically enforcing the laws on the waters and in the ports.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, that'd be good.
Yeah, I've got some maritime blood in me. My dad was a merchant marine, so I feel like I'm going full circle.
You know, I actually threw my hat in for a position in D.C. Did I tell you about this?
No, I didn't hear about that.
I was having a discussion with Senator Tuberville, and I said,
"There's your first problem."
I said, if you need an FCC commissioner who's actually done the work that they're regulating and actually knows something about it other than a textbook, I'll do it. And I got a very blank look from him, and I don't know if he was pondering that, or he thought I was joking him, or I don't know. But anyway, I guess you saw that went another direction, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Well, that's one less thing to worry about.
Yep.
You wouldn't want to live in D.C. anyway.
Well, I might want to visit. It was a nice place to visit. We did enjoy coming up.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a struggle to live up there. It is for me anyway, because I grew up in the country, and I love small communities and small mentalities, Coach has helped me out a lot. He's a dear friend of mine. He asked me what I was going to do. I told him I was opening up a gas station. I was going to train a monkey to wash windshield.
Like the old days.
Yeah, I remember when they had one.
I do too. Full service.
Tommy thinks I'm a nut.
Listen, I was at a gas station, C-store, not too long ago, and I was cleaning my windshield. And I got the thing, and I'd stick it over, and I'd flip it on the ground, to get and then I'd take my towel and wipe it, and then do another one. And there was an older guy about my age. He said, You used to see that done, didn't you? I said, I sure did. That's how they did it. He said, you can always tell if they know how to flip it and wipe it, that they used to get full service when they were a kid.
Well, McDonald's figured it out. If you think about it, they've got a clown selling you hamburgers, and what do your kids want to do? They want to go talk to the clown.
Right.
So they've got it figured out. So I want to do it with a monkey. You know, I want to train a monkey and put a diaper on him.
So you mean a real monkey?
I'm talking about a real monkey.
So it'd be almost like a zoo experience.
Yeah, so
I
he'll
like
jump
that.
up on the hood of your car and with a little squirt bottle and wash the window. The kids get all giggly. And, you know, you charge an extra 25 cents a gallon, and there you go. Entrepreneurs up and going.
You know what? I like that idea, Jerry.
Tommy thinks I'm nuts. That's what I'm getting at here. Coach has got very little tolerance for some people. But no, he's been a huge help to me, and I love him. Him and Katie both have just been exceptional for this state.
She has been, I think, a real eye-opening for a lot of folks that how energetic she is. And, of course, she had some experience on the Hill working with Shelby, but she's really hit the ground running. And I'll tell you, I knew Wesley much better that played at Alabama, and I really had never met Katie till they were running. And if Saturday Night Live makes fun of you, and they use Scarlett Johansson to portray you, you've done all right. You know it.
That's what I told Bill. I said it was funny. It really was. I said I'd be flattered, I think, if I turned the TV on and that's who they had playing me. You know, it's like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, the value of Katie to the state of Alabama is her youth.
Yeah.
And she can stay there a long time and build up seniority, and that's the key in the Senate, seniority. Now, yes, she stepped in some incredible roles, some incredible positions. I'm sure Shelby and so many folks up in Washington that just love her to death helped her get there, but she's going to be pretty powerful, and that's important for us here in this state.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't think people realize. I mean, in a perfect world, everybody goes there and you vote for what's good for the country and all of that, but you really are elected to represent the people of your district.
That's right.
And you would hope that your district and the needs of the greater government would not be in conflict. But you are there to take care of your people and bring projects and money back home. And that's how you get reelected, right?
Yeah, and in the state of Alabama, you know, Alabama is very conservative. The district I'm in, District 1, it's probably more like Dale Strong's District 5, which is a little less conservative. And that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, Mobile's so influenced by New Orleans on one side and, of course, Florida on the other side. So it's a little bit less conservative. So but that doesn't have to carry over in what we bring home, the projects, the money.
But when you say
jobs.
less, you don't mean liberal. You just
No,
mean
not liberal.
not
No.
hardline.
You couldn't
conservative.
get an Alabama conservative elected in New York State.
right.
And you can't get a New York conservative elected in Alabama.
Right.
There's so many different degrees of that definition now in politics, and everybody wants to stamp it the way they view it, and I get that and I understand that. But the truth is, when you get to D.C., you got to learn to work with everybody because
You really do. You
We're
have
all
to.
in that play box together, and if you can get them to work with you, and you can help them without hurting your constituents, that's the way it should be.
Do you? That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and we briefly discussed it before we started this. Is the politics as diverse as what it appears on TV, or is there more working together behind the scenes? Now, and what I base that on, you pretty much know any nominee that Trump brings forward, every Democrat's going to vote against him no matter what.
Right.
But is there a time that you can ever work together with Schumer or AOC or any of those people, or are they just so opposed to what we believe you can't do anything with them?
They don't believe everything they say. AOC, I served on natural resources with AOC, and she's very nice, very polite, very easy to talk to. But when that camera's on, she's like a
bulldog.
No, she's coming at you.
I hear she makes a great margarita. I don't know.
I don't know. But you look at stuff like in Mobile. We've got also shipyard there, and also now is beginning to build portions of the submarine. And back, Congressman Courtney, a Democrat out of Vermont, is the reason why we got it. And I told Ed, I said, you need to come down and tour the shipyard with me. I'm going to need your help. Some things we need to do. And he came down, and next thing we know, we got we've got business coming in there out of Vermont, out of his shipyards that's in his district. And that's how you work with Democrats. Now, he's going to vote against everything I put on there. Right. I don't take that personal.
Right.
I just don't take that personal. But if I had to sit down in award times with somebody, he would be one of the guys I'd want in the room because he's got a little different view, a little different spin.
Right.
But it's from his heart. He's not trying to get in front of a TV. He's not trying to get, the headlines. He's just there to get work done.
You had told me one time that if the media was not in D.C., we'd get a lot more done.
Yeah, everybody pauses and spends a lot of time preparing for the media.
Right.
They're going to stop you in the hall. This is what you need to say, or this is what we encourage you to say. And, I had a rule of thumb. If I was walking, I wasn't talking. Give anybody an interview that came to the office. I didn't care. I really didn't care. Answer any questions you may have. I don't believe in trying to control the media under those circumstances. But when you're moving and they hit you with those fireball questions, you just keep walking.
Well, I think the media has a very important role in a democracy to keep everybody honest, so to speak. The problem is who's keeping the media honest. Yeah. And I think so many of them now are carrying an agenda. The way they go about their job is gotcha media for one side and prop somebody up the other way. I mean, we saw the media cover for a president that was unable to do his job for no telling how long. And they hit it, told us it wasn't true, and then it became blatantly obvious. And they run for cover. You couldn't find them talking about that anymore, could you?
So I saw him on TV yesterday, and he is really, even in the short length of time he's been there, he's looking weak, very weak.
Well, wisdom comes with age, but there's a point where you start going over the hill the other way, and you need to enjoy retirement. And unfortunately, a lot of us are getting to that part of the roller coaster, Jerry.
Well, I haven't hit my peak yet, just for the record.
Yeah, I start saying,
I don't know who you're talking about.
Wait a minute, I'm painting myself in a corner here as I'm doing this. Let me back up.
I told somebody the other day I hadn't even hit my cruising altitude yet. So,
well, you do. You have a lot of energy. You've always been a go-getter. For people who don't know your story, tell everybody what you did before you went to Congress.
So I've started and ran businesses my whole life, whether they're home health care equipment, whether they're pharmacy related, did some compound pharmacy and also specialty pharmacy. Owned a bed and breakfast. I recommend anybody that you really hate, encourage them to get in the bed and breakfast business. It's absolute nightmare. And did some timber management also. So a jack of all trades and a master of none. I'm good at building businesses and getting them at a good profitable point, selling them and moving on.
Well, you've been very successful, and you tried to take that skill to D.C. and represent us, and you did a great job. And you got caught up in this crazy redistricting thing. That
hurt. That hurt.
That is one of the more bizarre. I want everybody to be represented. Okay, I'm not a gerrymandering person. Which is a hard word to say. But while I don't think that the Republicans or the Democrats ought to stack the districts in their favor, I also don't think the courts ought to be doing it. And that's what happened this time.
So it's going back to court. It has been argued back at the state Supreme Court. They're still waiting on a ruling from it. Either way, whether it comes back, and this time they based it on race. You can't redraw it based on race. If it comes back either way, it's still going to go into the Supreme Court, federal system. Louisiana's got one that's about 4 or 5 months ahead of us. Everyone's watching that one. Basically, the same lawsuit, some similarities. The same discussions being held on it at the Supreme Court. June or July, we should have a reading. If they come back and say you can't base it on race, it's a done deal.
Right.
But the NAACP money and some of the Democrats, strong Democrats, will continue throwing money at it and try to get it done. But it was an impact for the Gulf Coast. I mean, it really, I feel like it hurt us. And Barry's doing a good job. The guy that beat me, Barry Moore, he's doing a good job.
Well, it took two conservative Republicans that we had representing us across the entire bottom part of our state and put y'all against each other and won. But this is what was strange to me. Again, everybody needs to be represented. I don't have, you hate somebody that complains and doesn't have an answer. But while we do need that, the way that you can't do it is just to draw a hole and say, okay, this is an opportunity zone for minorities, which is what they did.
Right.
Clarence Thomas objected to it, who is African-American on the Supreme Court, and said, if we start doing this, where is the Mexican? Where is the Latino?
Exactly.
Where is the Asian zone?
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know how you fix it. People live where they want to live, or they live where they can afford to live. I don't know how you go in and make it represent the population on race exactly, but you want everybody to be represented. What is a proper way to fix that?
Well, you're looking at two districts now, District 1 and District 2. District 1 runs from Mobile all the way over to Dothan. That's two different worlds.
Right. The Wiregrass versus the Bay Area.
Great people over there.
But it's different topography. It's different economies.
Its mentality's different over there. It's a much slower lifestyle, and God knows I need more of that, slower lifestyle. So, Barry's got a tough job representing basically two types of districts. And he and I have had this conversation before, and I would have the same struggle. Mine would be just the opposite, obviously. And then you've got the District 2, which is the quote-unquote minority-based district, which runs from Mobile to Auburn, south of Auburn there. Right. And it's two totally different worlds. So in that splitting that up, and how do you fix it is real simple. Quit worrying about the race of people, and let's start focusing on the quality of people. The people that vote, get somebody that's going to represent them. I mean, I fought tooth and toenail for the Port of Mobile, for the U.S. Coast Guard, for everything in the Mobile in my district. And Barry did the same in his. So, but now he's got to split that same amount of attention between not just the Coast Guard, but also the Army Air Base over there at Rucker, or Novacell, as they call it now. So it's a tricky place to be. And if we let them get away with it here and in Louisiana, they'll do it nationwide. So the line's been drawn, and we're going to fight it.
Well, like I said, it starts such a dangerous precedent, because then you got to go back, because the Latino population is going to be the majority population by, last I saw, 2050. So how are you going to fix all of that? And who is going to, and then are you going to start going with other preferences? Right. I do this, I do that. We need I don't have the answer. I want everybody to be represented, but I don't think we did it the right way.
Well, and Chris Pringle, Housemember Pringle, had a plan drawn together that worked, and I wish they would go back to that one. It is different lines than what we had, and I think I take a little bit of Barry, and Barry gives a little bit to myself, but it's not that striking difference that we've got now. But things happen for a reason, so we'll see how it plays out. I mean, hey, I get to sit here and talk with you.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not stuck on an airplane headed to Europe somewhere trying to put a fire out.
That's always good. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. Jerry Carl, former Congressman, District 1, Alabama, visiting with us. Caitlin used to work for you. We haven't covered that yet. And we still have a lot more to cover, and we'll be right back.
It's Bubba on the Lake. Bubba on the Lake.
This is Coke Zero Sugar. Could I be the best Coke ever? Try and taste with your ears. Hear those bubbles? Imagine them tingling on your tongue. Fizzy deliciousness. Listen to that cascading liquid. A mouth-watering waterfall. Irresistibly tasty. Zero sugar. Crisp. Refreshing. And ice cold. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Try and decide.
At Central State Bank, we believe community banking is more than just transactions. It's about relationships. For over 100 years, we've been helping neighbors grow, businesses thrive, and dreams become reality. Because when you bank local, you invest in your community. Central State Bank, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Visit us today or learn more at centralstatebank.com. Member FDIC.
It's Bubba on the Lake. Bubba on the Lake.
We're back with Jerry Carl, former Congressman, District 1, Alabama, friend of the show, friend of the podcast, and my daughter's former boss.
She She's a special child.
Well, we
She's
call her
our
our
spirited
spirited child.
She is.
And,
She is every bit of that. I tell you, when she walks into a room, it is full of entertainment.
I can't imagine that.
I loved her to death. I'd scold her like her. I used to tell her, "I'm gonna talk to you like your daddy now." I'd scold her a little bit, but she is. She says certainly a special young lady.
Now, Jerry, somehow, and I don't know if this was a mistake on your part or what happened, how did she become the designated driver?
That's what I want to know.
She had a car.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of them didn't have their cars.
And she got that medallion on there, and she'd go.
Once, I mean, if you got a car, you're stuck. You're it. And we paid. I think it's 55 cents a mile, whatever the IRS rate is.
Right.
Of course, she could say no, but it got her out of the office, and she was good.
She said you could get you to the airport in record time.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're on official business, I mean, you get to let her eat, don't you?
I don't know. I don't know about all that, but the first time she drove me, I guess she was a little nervous. And I'm in the back, and I got some other staff in the car with me, and she didn't run through a stop sign. She ran through a stop sign and stopped in the middle of the intersection. There's a 4-way stop sign, and sat there looking around like, what do I do next? and all I'm saying is get out of the way. Get out of the way.
Go.
Yeah,
Do something.
She was a blessing. She was just fun to be around.
Well, I told her when she was a little girl, she was very outgoing early on. And I said, Caitlin, you can be president if you want to one day.
I see that.
And she's always trying to talk me into running. I think she just wants to get back to D.C. to do something. I said, well, why don't you run? That would be even better.
Yeah.
But
I can
get
see
part
that.
of the new power generation,
Yeah,
Katie Britt, girl power, you know?
We need younger people involved in politics.
Yeah.
We truly do. But I love those young people up there and the staff. They just add so much energy to people like you and I. I mean, you think you're out of steam and it's time to quit, and then they come blowing in the room, and it's another 2 hours.
How do you go about hiring all those people?
Because
we really enjoyed getting to meet a lot of your staff.
You had the best staff, I feel like.
they bragged about that.
We were big fans of Harold.
Oh, everybody
I
loves
love
Harold.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Harold.
Yeah.
Harold sends my wife pictures all the time of him. Does he send them to you too?
He has,
We did
and he
for a
always
while.
texts me.
He was quite
Happy
outgoing there in the
birthday or
D.C. area.
Oh yeah, Harold.
Man about town.
He could charm a snake. But I had a chief of staff, Chad Carlos. When I got elected, I knew that's who I wanted, so I talked to him, and the deal is you hire, you fire.
Yeah.
And that's the way it worked. I probably let a couple go out of the 4 years we were up there. But I want to make sure those young folks had a great experience. It was a learning experience. I wanted them to understand it was okay to make mistakes. You learn from those mistakes and move on. That's just part of life. It's not the end of the world.
That is, I think, one of the biggest things that a lot of young people don't understand. And sadly, I think all of us have learned more from mistakes than when things went right.
Yeah.
And we've all heard the story about Michael Jordan not making the basketball team. I mean, but I had a similar experience in 7th grade. I got cut, and it just crushed me. But I went and became a better basketball player after that and learned to deal with it. I remember my dad telling me, he said, that feeling you got inside right now you don't like? He said, remember that when you're out running miles and you're tired and you need to play man-to-man defense. Remember that. Draw on that, and said, you'll get better.
Yeah, you lose a multi-million-dollar campaign, you'll feel the same way. An empty spot in your stomach.
Oh, gosh.
Jerry, how about running? That's you wanted to serve and give back with your skill set, but running a campaign, my goodness, it's a whole nother animal, isn't it?
Yeah, this last campaign got ugly, and I didn't like it. And it's like anything. Once you get it moving, it's kind of hard to change directions of it. I wish we'd have done things different. I think we'd had a different outcome. But hindsight's 20/20. The next election I run is going to be positive. We got so much negative in our lives.
Right.
The Lord knows I've got enough skeletons in my closet. We've all done in our life that we're fearful of people knowing, because it's in our head and we think it's bad. In reality, everybody's the same. But campaigning is tough. Raising money's tough. I mean, the most you can get is $3,300 from a person, and you got to raise $1.5 million to $2 million. I mean, you do the math. That's a lot of phone calls.
You gotta have the TV commercials. You gotta have this. Let me ask you this, because I've wondered this. Like you said, you want to run a positive campaign, but when you hire these firms that are, they're experts in marketing and tagging people and getting people to be perceived this way or that, I'm sure they come to you, even though you say you want to run a positive campaign, they want to do it a little bit different because they know negative campaigning works, at least in their mind.
That's the first thing they tell you is, positive doesn't work, negative works, negative works, negative works. If I spent a lot of money on a campaign that I was not proud of when I got through with it, win or lose, if I'd have lost that campaign and ran it the way that now I feel, I wouldn't feel near as bad because I'm about $400,000 lighter in my pocket. Not to mention everybody else's money.
You get to share in that, don't you?
I get a little pain too.
And a lot of people don't know the radio and TV people have to give what's called lowest unit pricing to politicians. So if they have usually the bigger the advertiser, the better deal they get on spot price. Yeah. Well, they up to the election, they have to look and say, well, we had this car dealer that buys $100,000 a month, and we've got to give the politician the lowest unit, and they have to document that, and it's part of the whole deal. But it just takes a lot of money, doesn't it?
It does.
What do you think works good in campaigning? Are you a sign guy? Radio, TV,
touching
you think?
people, just touching people.
But it's hard to touch that many people.
Yeah, Katie.
If you touch them too much, you'll get. There's laws against that.
So Katie came to me and she talked to me before she ran. She said, "How can I win?" I said, "It's easy. Just touch as many people as you can. You got to try to touch 51% of the people."
Right.
And there was a lot of wisdom in what I told her there. And being.
But you can't go door to door.
Yeah, you door to door. That's how I won my first campaign. Run for county commissioner. I beat a 3-time incumbent. But I took a whole year off from my businesses. I had them on cruise control, and I knocked on 15,000 doors by myself. And
do people, are they receptive to door knocking now?
You would really be surprised how many people will open up and tell you,
Or do you just try to meet them at things they're at, cookouts and all that? Or do you literally knock on the door? I
did. You can't now. I can't now because people know who I am. And they'll go, you voted on so-and-so bill. We don't like that. Or Katie Britt, get her a message. Or,
Loved her on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. It gets a little tricky, but just touching people. I mean, if there was more ways of doing that. I mean, I grew up under the old George Wallace era. I can remember George Wallace pulling up in a parking lot and dropping tailgate of a truck and getting on the tailgate of the truck. There'd be 200 or 300 people in a small town like Sylacauga around that truck in an hour. That just word would spread. I guess he advertised on radio. I mean, I know he didn't advertise on TV that I remember.
Right.
But elections have really changed. It's become a lot more commercialized. They can take a bad candidate, make them look real good on the screen.
And you got to have all the traditional Alabama components to your commercial. You have to be in a truck. You have to have a dog. You have to show a gun over your shoulder walking through the field.
Exactly.
That's standard. And you punch all of that. Maybe a Auburn player and an Alabama coach, or vice versa. You got to balance it out. And it's funny because we always laugh. Go, okay, there's that mark. There's that one.
Yeah. Every once in a while, you catch that candidate that's got a gun pointed at somebody, or they don't usually handle a gun.
Yeah, right.
Walking around with his finger on the trigger, and you're going, that guy doesn't own a gun. Yeah.
So tell me, when you got to D.C., what was the most surprising in a positive way, and what was the most surprising to you in a negative way?
In a positive way, I was struck. I was just awed at every time I walked on that floor, the history that had been determined on that floor. I mean, just on that floor, World War I, World War II. Mm-hmm. I mean, the speakers that had been there. Right. I mean, just countless people You go into the what's called the statue hall now. That's Abraham Lincoln. That was his office. That's where he would warm his feet up over in that corner. And I mean, just the pure history of our country that's in that town. If that doesn't humbleize you, nothing does. And I had an old congressman tell me, says, if you ever walk on this floor and you don't have that feeling, go home.
Yeah,
it's over. It's time to go home. The worst thing for me is I went in the middle of COVID. The Democrats were in control, and they made our life a living hell. They really did. I was there January 6th. I was there on the floor when it all broke out. I thought it was gunshots coming through the glass door, but it wound up being a pole they were poking at the door and just blowing glass out at us. I was sitting near the door. I had Laura Bobart sitting next to me, and she was always famous for carrying a gun. She got that mini skirt on. And, and that tight
we
dress.
all saw her at the movies.
I don't want to go. She's a sweet girl. And anyway, I look at her.
Appeared to be.
I look at her, and I give her the "Have you got a gun?" sign, and she just slaps her hips like, "Where am I going to put it?"
Right, nowhere to hide one today.
Yeah.
So you were there. Tell us about that, because you have one side that has portrayed this as the greatest attack on democracy since the Civil War, and you have another side that said it was sightseeing. And we can't. It's kind of. I know they're trying to filter through some of the stuff now, but was some of that staged? Was Pelosi involved in letting the defense down on purpose? What did you feel? Did you feel unsafe that day?
Did I feel unsafe? I was mad. I'm not one to get scared. I mean, when pressure like that gets put on me, I get mad and I start pushing back. I was trying to get to the door because there were a couple of members that were holding that door closed, and I was trying to get to the door. And I don't know who it was, but somebody grabbed me and threw me into the wave of people and said, "Jerry, we're going to make sure you make it to week 2 in Congress."
Yeah.
And away we went. But it was I mean, there were people, again, we had COVID. There were some members that were sitting up in the upper area. You could hear them screaming and praying in tongue, and I mean, it was just mass confusion, and everybody was just so fearful. There's a picture somewhere, I want to find it, but they were screaming for everybody to get down, because those seats are bulletproof. And I was the only one. I was standing up looking around. I'm an old redneck. I'm trying to figure out where the fight's at, and where's the door to get out. So in case the fight doesn't work out too well, we know where to go. But it was an experience. I was embarrassed after it was over with, especially being a Republican, and obviously there were some bad people involved in that. But there were so many good people. I mean, there was so many people just walking around taking pictures.
Yeah, it was so strange because you'd see one clip of video, and it looked like the guards were showing someone through, posing for pictures, and then you have somebody being shot at another door.
So you go to a rock concert, let's say a rock concert, and they keep you locked outside the gate for 4 hours. When they finally open that gate, what happens? Everybody floods in, and you got some hooligans that are going to tear stuff up and try to be cute, and then you've got some people that are respectful and they want to find their seat. And I think that's what we saw. I think the people that did harm our Capitol should be punished, but there was so many people that came in there. They were literally sightseers, and they were moving us around. We didn't know what to expect. There was gunshots. We'd heard gunshots. The radios they had on, they were screaming, "Man down, man down." Somebody had been shot, and they were moving us around. You got to love the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is straight out of Hollywood, I promise you. They've got somebody in Hollywood writing script for them every day. So they put us in one big room together, Ways and Means Committee room, and we'd been run all over the building. We'd ran 2 or 3 miles. I mean, down all these halls, and one Grava, congressman from Arizona, he was in the floor, and I was grabbing him, trying to drag him. No man left behind.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just pure chaos. But we get in this room, so some of us take our mask off. We couldn't breathe. And the next day, the headlines were Republicans using chemical warfare against Democrats because we took our mask off in that room. But it was just, and my family was upstairs. It was in the Longworth building. And I said, I want to go upstairs. My family, nope, Congressman, we're getting ready to put you on a bus. We're taking you to the Pentagon. We're going to lock you down to the Pentagon. It's the only safe place we've got at this moment. Now all the radios are screaming they've breached the West. They've breached the West. All these radios and all these thugs carrying weapons. I mean, there was some greasy guys. I don't know where they got them from. They were they were hoodlums. They knew what they were doing. And I said, can I go to the bathroom? I said, yeah. So when I went to the bathroom, I just took the stairs and went up to my office, and my family was up there eating pizza and watching them throwing flash grenades out the windows.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so it was an interesting day. So that's
if the people were a threat, I guess I was caught by the fact that somebody didn't unload and stop it earlier. If they were really a threat, because I would think that you couldn't just storm.
Capitol Police are not trained. They are crowd-controlled people. And I don't mean this disrespectful to them. They are not policemen. They are not they're not the military. Right. They are crowd-controlled. You stop and ask them, and I've done it 1,000 times, you're lost and you want to find a way to get somewhere. They're very polite. Right. They're trained to do that, and they certainly will put themselves in the line of defense, which they proved that day. But I said it that day when I got on the radio with Sean Sullivan, and I'll say it again. Something's not right. Mm-hmm. Nancy Pelosi should have had better control of that, and we have learned since then what she didn't do intentionally. I would hope she would not have done that intentionally. If she did, I don't think she knew it was going to go that far.
Well, I saw the video of her in the car, I think that her daughter was doing, which seemed to indicate that it had got out of control.
Oh, yeah. It got far past. You know, she was on the podium when all this started, and when I turned around and looked, she was gone. Mm-hmm. Well, they told me one of the Secret Service run up there and snatched her and physically carried her out of the room. But it was a setup, I think, in a lot of ways, but it was also, I hope it was a learning experience for this country. You know, Republicans normally don't act that way.
Right.
We don't get out and protest. We don't get out and do a lot of things, and sometimes we should.
Right.
To be quite honest.
I agree. We're too passive at times.
We're too busy working.
Yeah. That's it. There's a lot of protests I would have liked to have gone to, but I had to go to work.
Well, but most of the protests you see are people that are either in Washington, they're being paid. That's their job. Because, again, most of us are out working.
It's all about the optics, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look at your Democrat friends. I got a lot of Democrat friends. They don't get out on a Wednesday morning and protest. They're working too. It's not the best of the best that show up at a lot of these protests.
Oh yes. Well, like I say, if you're a hired gun and this is what you do, you probably.
Hey, maybe that's what we can do. We can start protesting.
Yeah, I'm available. Hire me and I'll go protest. Jump up and down, sling sideways, all that. We're talking to Jerry Carl, former congressman from Alabama, District 1. We're going to talk with Jerry a little bit more when we come back. Thank you for being with us on Bubba on the Lake.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We'll be right back.
Looking for that beautiful quilt or other fabulous gifts? Check out Ann's Quilt and Country Store in Rogersville. Come see Miss Kim for all your quilting needs. She does custom quilts, memory and t-shirt quilts, and will also quilt your quilt top. There are gifts for women, babies, and even knives for the menfolk. Visit Miss Kim at Ann's Quilt, 1614 Lee Street in historic downtown Rogersville, Alabama. Call 256-483-2276 or search the store on Facebook and Google.
When you need urgent care, Southern Immediate Care is here for you. Illness doesn't follow a 9-to-5 schedule, so we offer support 7 days a week at convenient locations throughout Birmingham and Northeast Alabama, dedicated to serving all ages from children to adults. Southern Immediate Care offers occupational medicine services, including DOT physicals and testing. At Southern Immediate Care, your health is our top priority. Visit southernimmediatecare.com or call 205-409-2794.
It's Bubba on the Lake. Bubba on the Lake.
Our guest is Jerry Carl, former congressman from Alabama, District 1, which was Mobile. Jerry, I heard the other day there was some rumblings about dividing up one of the counties down there and making it a second county and would add an extra county to the state. Have you heard any of that?
I've not heard that.
Yeah, it was part of the top part of maybe Mobile County. up where the it kind of splits around the bay.
Yeah.
Somebody had brought that up in the state. I don't know what I never really caught why that was going on or what the big movement was.
I tell you the funny thing about
maybe because of barking dogs. I don't know. That's a running theme we have here at Bubba on the Lake.
That's all right. It proves we're here.
Yeah.
Tell by the bark. But Baldwin County, I love to tell a story of Baldwin County. Nobody would take Baldwin County. And the government literally gave the Baldwin County to about 5 or 6 different farm families. You had the Italians, you had the Germans, you had these different farm families that took Baldwin County, and look at it now. I mean, wow.
Well, I get when I'm on that long bridge going down to Mobile, and I see the swampy area under that, I thought, man, whoever came through here the first time, they had their work cut out for them.
Yeah, I think about, how about coming over Cheehaw Mountain?
Yeah, that was.
How about going over the Rockies? That one of my favorite paintings at the Capitol is one that was very close to the entrance, and it's a huge painting. I mean, it's probably a 30 by 30 painting. This thing's massive, and it's covered wagons crossing the Rocky Mountains. And the wives driving it, and the kids hanging on. And I mean, how would you like to be a woman 9 months pregnant with 2 kids crossing Rocky Mountains in a wagon?
The snow they have.
I mean, that. But
the people who settled this continent were not like us.
But
they were a different cut.
I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that. We're Americans, and we step up when it's time to step up.
Boy, they were tough, though.
They are tough.
They were tough.
But you look at World War II. Look how those folks stepped up. I mean, not only did we have all the males overseas fighting, we had all the women making the bullets and the powder and flying the planes, and I mean, it was all hands on deck. That's that American spirit that's the world's feared of. That's what we see right now in Trump. That's what we see what's going on with the tariffs. That's what scares the mess out of Europe when that American spirit gets stirred up.
Let's talk about tariffs just a minute. We did a podcast on it not too long ago. I compared tariffs to someone who's carrying a gun. You hope you never have to use it, but the fact that you have it in your pocket, people have to respect you.
I'm not for tariffs, but I'm for equal trade.
Right.
And if it takes a tariff to get equal trade, I'm certainly in support of equal trade.
Right. Well, fair. We want it fair. If you're going to have 5% on our imports, we need to have 5% on yours and let it fall where it may.
Yeah,
right?
and being on Armed Service Committee and being on some of the committees I was on, I'm privy to a lot of information that we just don't share. But China's in a position that they could control us pretty easy. They could through our pharmaceuticals, whether it's through our
electronics.
Yeah, I mean, this goes on and on. So at what point do we say enough's enough and America stands up? And Donald Trump's the person that does it. Whether you like him or not, I'm telling you, in 4 years, this will be a different country. And we've got hard times we're getting ready to go through. You're going to see interest rates fluctuate. You're going to see stock markets fluctuate. You're going to see some of his supporters that probably will get a little weak-kneed. But I understand where he's going. I truly do. And all we're asking for is equal trade. That's all we're asking for.
And it hasn't been equal for a long time.
I agree.
If you look at the history of it, a lot of it come out of World War II because our economy was so strong and everybody else's was in shambles. So we tried to help them out.
Right. Yeah.
But they don't need that protection now.
Well, they think they don't. I mean, you look at some of these countries that are panicking right now because of the tariffs. They need us, and they know they need us.
Right.
Canada. They need our military powers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They need us, and we need them. We need them too. Same with Mexico. Same with so many other countries. So I think what Trump's doing is correct, but it's going to be painful, and a lot of people are going to get aggravated when you can't go get that $2 piece of plastic throw away.
Right.
That's one of the things. My mother was a product of World War II, and she made gunpowder or powder plant there in Childersburg, and they made big round balls of powder that actually they'd shove in those cannons and shoot with. But
did you know some of the Manhattan Project was done Sylacauga, Childersburg area? I had no idea.
I knew some of it was done in Auburn. I knew there was a lot of it done in Auburn.
There was a lot more of it done there than I thought.
I did not know that. I have to check on that one. But the world changed after World War II.
Yeah.
I mean, all the soldiers went over there, and they understood there was a world outside their small community, and instead of marrying within their community, they started venturing out, and it's become a one world system here now. But we as a society can't function that way. We have to take care of our own. And I've been screaming this from the very beginning. I was one of the first ones down the Panama Canal. I was the first one screaming about China, myself and Coach Tuberville. He and I went down there together. And when everything down there is interpreted into Chinese, there's problems.
Yeah, big problem.
Yeah, and Chinese.
Well, we have a thing called the Monroe Doctrine that, we're taught in 8th grade that people act like doesn't exist anymore. We're not supposed to have foreign influence in our hemisphere to that level.
Well, there's a lot of things that some of our leaders in Washington have never read. 10 Commandments being one of them.
Yeah, that's a good start, right?
Yeah, but it's a crazy world out there, and I'd love to tell you that I know it's going to work out perfect. I don't know that, but I like the idea of the change of direction, and let's taking care of our own first.
We got to.
And whatever we have left over, we will be more than glad to share.
We've always done that. I don't think Americans have a problem with that, but like it's much like, and I hate to keep referring to this, Caitlin's budget plan. We can't just, we can't just stomp the accelerator to her at 0 and then that be the end of the. We got to plan a little better than that, right?
Well, I think she kind of goes along with a lot of people that we know. I don't think she's the only person that has that mentality. We love her. She's special.
She is. She's. I'm anxious to see what God has in plans for her and Hunter.
I'm looking to see which plans she's got for God.
You could probably argue the point. So we were talking earlier too about the Smithsonian, which was one of my favorite places in D.C. The Enola Gay is hanging there, which is something very interesting to me in history because my dad was in World War II, was supposed to invade Japan, did not have to, was already told they're going to have casualty rate of about 50%. So we were very glad of that decision, even though it was very, very bad for the folks of those cities. But have you ever seen the guy that was in both cities?
No.
There is a guy that was in Hiroshima who was from Nagasaki and survived the bombing, went home and got bombed again. He's the only guy that was in both bombings.
What was his name? Lucky?
I was about to say.
That's what they ought to call him. But, at the Smithsonian, I thought this was strange. There's a lot of talk going on. You got the SR-71 Blackbirds, and you've got the space shuttle, and you've got all these warplanes and all of this, some captured, some ours. And you get over to the Enola Gay, and it is quiet. No one is talking. It's just such a somber thing to think about what that plane did and not only for those people, but how it changed the way we perceive my dad, we talked about it. He said, when they told us, we had seen how the Japanese fought island to island hopping. And he said, when we heard they surrendered after one bomb dropped on 2 different cities, we thought, well, that can't be real. How can that be?
Yeah. Now you think about the bombs and the capabilities we have now, just dwarf those bombs. So
those are triggers now.
Yeah. Those are little things. So
and that's scary for a lot of people that exists. But it's kept the peace since World War II for the most part, and we hope that it continues to do that. But it is scary, the possibility.
Well, I'm a firm believer in strength through. Peace. We've got to keep a strong military.
Or peace through strength.
Yeah, I had that backwards. That's why I hesitated. but
it's something like that, Jerry.
Yeah, it's something like that. But our military in the last 4 years have really just gotten beaten up, beaten down, and I don't want to sit here and be pounding the drum here, but it's just so different, the attitude in the military right now. My son got out of the military because he'd had enough. All the politics. Right. The Marine Corps, they'd get shot on. They'd have to call in, get permission to return fire.
Yeah.
That's no way to fight. That's no way to defend yourself.
No, and I've heard the same thing, too. I talked to a recruiter the other day, and he was telling me the difference that happened literally the night that Donald Trump was elected. It went from we can't make our totals, we can't, and to people calling, again, wanting to sign up. Said he'd never seen anything like it.
So, that's how I got involved in politics, is my son going into active combat in Afghanistan and me thinking, what can I do? So I went and tried to join the Marine Corps. And the guy died laughing. He goes, Mr. How old are you? And I don't know. I was like 51 or something. He goes, well, the cutoff age here is 50. I said, man, I can drive a truck. I can do something.
Yeah, I know. Put us old white hairs to work doing something. We just don't have to do that PT training.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't need to be able to sprint to drive a truck.
Yeah, I peel potatoes. I do something.
I know. I got to know how to fill up the gas.
Yeah, I was trying to do my thing, but of course that led into the politics. But yeah, my son serving in the Marine Corps changed a lot of things in my mind. It truly did.
Jerry, let me ask you this: since you were there when this was happening, the whole COVID thing, what have you learned now versus what we were told then? What changes should we make if we're ever faced with that again? And do you think we're going to be faced with that again? Because I don't think this was a accidental situation as much as what it's been portrayed in the media.
I think China probably played around with that. They certainly did not have any intentions of it spreading around the world. It's just my thoughts.
Right. Got away from it.
Yeah,
and we had reports their lab was careless, 2 years prior to that, right?
Yeah, so, but if you look, there's always a disease of some type every so many years.
Right.
I think a lot of the people that died during COVID was our reactions. My pastor, I named 5 people that passed away. They all had similar situations, diabetes. They had some organ that was weak in some way, and the first thing they did was put them on ventilators. So I had a pulmonologist I was having dinner with in the middle of COVID, and he told me, he says, I think we're killing people on ventilators, not knowing what was going on. And they have come out and said that ventilators was a lot of the problems.
Maybe too aggressive.
Yeah, too aggressive.
I mean, when you don't have your oxygen level in your blood, you have to do something.
Yeah.
But maybe BiPAPs or CPAP type machines.
But if you've got a bad heart, or you got bad lungs, or you got a bad liver, or you got sugar diabetes, I mean you're a time bomb anyway.
Right, it's pressing you.
And for something like COVID, a whole new disease. I mean, we're getting COVID today. You and I get it. I mean, now it's like the common flu.
Right.
To some people it's not, but to us it is.
Well, the flu can be deadly, too.
Sure it is.
We have a lot of people die from the flu every year. It just doesn't make headlines.
I think what I hope we have learned is how to deal with mass fear. I guess the biggest thing I'm looking for. Don't be, let's, as a government or as leaders, let's don't jump on the fearful side. We can still be positive and try to figure this situation out.
Well, the public was demanding something be done. And then you guys hear it and you want to respond to that. You want to be a good representative, but when you're dealing with something that's got to have herd immunity, it ain't going to happen in 2 days.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen in your house locked down either. You can get out and get some fresh air.
Right, exactly.
Common sense applies at some point.
The lockdown probably prolonged it.
Oh, of course it did.
You know what finally ended it was college football. People said to heck with it. We're going to the stadium. And we had another little outbreak after that, but then it was gone.
Yeah.
Leave it to college football to solve the problems.
It's created a lot of problems, too, in the years, especially between us Auburn and Alabama fans. So
let me ask you this. Fauci has been praised on one side of the aisle and demonized on the other. I don't think he was forthcoming the way he should have been. He knew that lab was working with COVID-type germs. The reason it was done there is because it was illegal in the United States because it was too dangerous. We were helping to fund it with our own tax dollars, but he still rode this somebody ate a bat out at the wet market story when I think he should have said right away, we were doing research here. It could have come from that lab. I think that would have helped light years in the prevention and moving our response forward, but he sit on it because he thought it'd look bad on him.
I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it again. My grandfather used to tell me there's 2 motivators, sex and money. So I'm riding down Airport Boulevard thinking during the middle of all this, thinking about Fauci, and I'm going, okay, how does this fit into Fauci's life? How does this silly thing my grandfather told me fits into Fauci's life? And I went, wait a minute. He made an announcement that only that 3M mask was the only one that would actually filter that germ out. I wonder how much stock he bought day before he made that announcement.
Yeah.
Did we ever check?
We can't. He's a private citizen. We can't do it because I brought it up in Congress. I mean, I started pounding the drum of this guy's making money off of this. Then he comes out, he could change the direction of little things that make a fortune in the market.
Right.
He's got one of the largest houses outside of D.C. now. This thing's an estate. It's huge. And he made, $500,000 a year as a doctor his whole life for the government.
He's one of the highest paid government employees we have.
I'm not saying that's chicken feed, but you can't afford a 200-acre farm in Virginia on that type of salary. So I've always linked it back to money.
Well, we learned too. I thought it was interesting, like research grants that the government give these people, millions of dollars, and then if they come up with something that they can patent, the government doesn't get the money on it. They do. I always thought that was strange.
I never knew that. I learned that from what came out of COVID.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought at least it ought to be a shared. I mean, as a taxpayer, we ought to get part of the benefit, and of course, the person. I don't want to take away the driving factor for them to burn the midnight oil, to come up with these things, but it should be shared. I didn't know they were getting away with that.
Well, I love Elon Musk's attitude. I'm not going to take time to get a patent. I'm moving on.
He's an unusual guy. Isn't he? Have you met him before?
No, I've been in a room with him a couple times, and of course, I've seen him at some of the meetings, but I've not met him. No.
One of my favorite podcasts is called Everyday Astronaut, and it's a guy that takes him and literally just walks around the Starbase, Texas, talking about things. Yeah. And I don't know if you saw one episode, the guy, he's like recording it on an iPhone. And he asked Elon why they're doing something the certain way and why couldn't they do it another way. And Elon stops and he scratches his head and he goes, that's really a good idea. We need to look at that. And they changed it based off what that guy, but his whole design concept of it's better to fly it, get the data, blow it up, than it is to just continually run computer simulations till the finished product is already outdated.
Yeah.
I think it's he's a very interesting. Now, a lot of people don't like him now because he's come in and suggested that we're wasting money.
And that confuses me, too. Nobody's arguing the fact that he's found wasted money. They're arguing the fact that he's not an elected official doing that.
And neither was Fauci. He changed our lives a lot, didn't he?
Great point.
Well, that's one of my questions. If I was advising the Democrats, which they're probably not going to ask my advice, and I hear people now, Bubba, don't tell them any secrets. I would say it appears that they oppose anything Trump's for right out of the gate. It's just dead on arrival. If Trump's for it, I'm against it. Why not pick and choose your battles? Why not go, we don't need 10 million illegal, unvaccinated people coming into our country that's going to buckle our social programs that are already in trouble. Why don't we get on board with that? Why don't we get on board with, giving people a choice in vaccinations? Why don't we, it just seems to, or in the Doge case, why don't we get on board with them on getting rid of waste? That would be more money they could spend on something else they wanted to do. Why do they oppose things that appear to be common sense?
That's all they got. That's all they've got. They've got nothing else. I mean, it's you throw a dirt clod and I throw one back. I mean, that's about the mentality that we're dealing with. But if I was Democrat Party right now, I'd be looking and I'd be saying, so we've got this 16 million people here illegally. Trump is going to try to send as many back as he can. We're going to need that labor. We truly will need that labor in the workforce. How can we improve this system so we can keep them here or at least let them stay here to work? That's what I'd be looking at. And I've had this silly idea for years. Real simple. You want to come to work in America, you buy a $2,500 card. We run a background check on you. You can come in for 9 months and work. You got to go home for 3 months. And then you come back as long as you're still in good standings, you can do that. Right. There is not a person in the world that you have bypassed all the all the border people is what you've done. You've made a clean, because they're paying $5,000 or $6,000 for the coyotes to bring them across anyway.
Right.
So it makes sense. And then we've got a workforce that we can work with on an as needed basis at that point, because they're not going to pay $2,500 and try to come across and find a job. They're going to pay the $2,500 and have jobs already lined up. Be a whole new industry that some young American can do and do that. If I was the Democrats, I'd be focused more on that. How can we take what Trump's doing, because we can't stop it, because we know the majority of America is in behind Trump. How can we add to that and look like we're the heroes? That's what I'd be looking at. How can we plug into that and not agree with him, but actually influence it in a positive way?
Right.
That's what America wants. That's what America's frustrated.
But they're not doing that. They're going the opposite
way. The American voters, they're frustrated because they're not seeing anything out of anybody. And it does get frustrating, and people fuss at you about not doing anything. And, you're one of 435 voices up there. We've got to come together as Americans. We've got, regardless of our race, our religion, any label you want to stick on, we've got to come together as Americans, like I talked about earlier. We've still got that in our blood.
We still want safe neighborhoods. We want a house. We want a store we can go to and buy food.
Democrats are no different.
And we got to figure out the commonality to get to that point.
We all want to rest in peace at night. We want to die with our families around us, and we want to be able to provide for our families. Simple as that.
Everybody.
Yep. Everybody. So we got to quit being distracted by politicians that want to create stories. I'm telling Democrats, Hollywood. The other night when Trump made the announcement of changing the tariffs and it spiked up, and I told my wife right then, I went, they're fixing to accuse him of selling and trading stocks off of this. I knew it was coming just from watching that. We got to quit that. Let's quit. Let's focus on fixing stuff, not tearing stuff up and tearing people down.
I've got a new stock advisor now. I just do whatever Nancy Pelosi's husband does, and I seem to do real good in the market.
So my staff was sitting up in the balcony one day, and of course they can't take phones up there, and they come back and they said, "Boss, you're not going to believe this. We sat and watched Nancy trading stock on her phone on the floor," which you can do that. There's nothing says you can't do it, but they're looking down on her phone as she's sitting there trading stocks. And I never heard anything that I'd intentionally to set myself up where I wouldn't ever be caught in that situation.
Yeah, well, you can have a blind trust.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the technical name of it when you have a stock?
It's mutual funds where I'm from.
Right.
I just I tied all mine up mutual funds. I have nothing to do with it, but there's a blind trust. You're right. And some of the
and you just see the numbers of what you're making. You don't see how you made it.
You don't pick the stock.
Yeah.
You don't pick the stock. But I think that's a sensitive area up there right now. I think the problem with Washington is either you're a millionaire or you're not going to get elected up there. You can't live up there.
Right.
And, especially folks in Alabama, they say, well, you made $174,000 a year. Yes, I did. And I paid taxes in New York. I paid taxes in Washington. I paid taxes in Alabama. I paid federal taxes, as well as I had to keep my apartment, my housing in D.C. as well as home. So you got two dwellings.
And that was probably a pay cut for a successful businessman to start with.
Well, I knew that was going to happen. I mean, that goes without saying. But the average person that lives from paycheck to paycheck, they can't afford to become a congressman. They really can't. And that Congress was designed for the average person to actually go in and serve.
Right. Carry their talents, give back, go back home and do whatever you did, carpentry, farming, whatever.
You get on that floor and you meet a lady that her hairdresser. I think one of them was a hairdresser. Right. You got farmers, you got bankers. I mean, it's just one of everything on that floor, and I think that's so unique.
And they bring their expertise.
Of course they do.
Because I may not know the banking industry, but they would know the insides and could, educate us as to where the problems are, how they can't serve their customers, and how we as the government can help that or fix it. Or get out of the way in a lot of cases.
Yeah, federal government get out of the way. Is the best thing to do.
Yeah, it's a whole lot better.
Everybody says the federal government needs to fix it. And I'm going, you know who tore it up, right?
Right. It's
federal
like
government's
it's like an arsonist with a fire hose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like your kids breaking the glass, telling them to fix it. They broke it to start with. They don't know how to fix it.
Well, Jerry, thank you for coming by and
My pleasure.
Here in the Mellow Yellow studio and sitting down with us. And I hope you'll do this again.
I tell you, Mellow Yellow must pay a lot of money for you to have a studio like this.
I tell you, of all the studios I've worked in, by far the best view.
Oh my gosh, the view. It is breathtaking. For those of y'all that can't see it, it's absolutely gorgeous. And your wife, my gosh.
She's glowing,
isn't she?
Yeah.
We haven't given her time to talk or say anything.
Betty, you got anything you want to ask the congressman?
I was just enjoying listening. Now, how did you put up with Caitlin? Like for 2 years, or how long did you?
Yeah, it was a couple of years. Yeah. She's easy to get along with. You just do whatever she tells you to do.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
Yeah. I mean, I never. There's never a dull moment around that child. I treat her like my own daughter, and we
appreciate that.
Well,
yes, we do.
I know that, but I try to treat.
She loves you
because there's, you hear horror stories. I mean, I'm old enough that we've heard all kind of intern horror stories in D.C.
I've heard them too, and I just don't like labels. I think that's wrong. But those young people, they run Washington D.C. They truly do, and it takes Caitlin's and it takes Carlos's. I mean, it takes one of everything on your staff to get it done.
Can I tell you one of my other favorite things there was Embassy Row. To go up through there and see all those flags and buildings.
Yeah.
And some are fancy, some are not.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Russians sitting up there on the hill so they can monitor everything in D.C. Who let them have the hill, Jerry? That was a terrible mistake.
They bought it.
From an RF engineer, that was a terrible mistake.
They bought it. We'll have to do this again. I can give you all my Russia stories.
Oh, you got Russia stories?
I have Russia stories. There's a great Russian restaurant there. You just have to be careful what you talk about.
Oh, no.
A lot of microphones, I bet.
I'm sure.
Our guest has been Jerry Carl. Jerry, thank you for coming by. We've enjoyed it, and we will definitely do it again.
Well, God bless you, and thank you so much.
It's Bubba on the Lake. Bubba on the Lake.
The perfect checking account does not exist. At least, not at a bank. At AmFirst, you can get no minimum balance or monthly fees, an instant issue debit card, and free checks with unlimited check writing. But who doesn't want more? Like a rewards program you'll actually use, and convenient digital tools that make it easy to manage your account from anywhere. That's what you'll find at AmFirst. Only available for qualifying members. AmFirst is federally insured by the NCUA.
Attention business owners, print buyers, and production managers. Guaranteed Labels is here to help you focus less on your printing, labels, and decals, and more on growing your business. Guaranteed Labels, your dependable printer for all types of industries. Quality, on-time shipments, and stock programs set us apart. If you're needing to focus less on your printing and more on your business, trust Guaranteed Labels. 800-741-7055 or GuaranteedLabels.com. Guaranteed Labels, still sticking since 1988.
Where's Bubba?
I'll tell you where. He's on the lake.
Well, that is going to do it for this edition of the podcast. I want to thank all my guests for being on, and thank you for spending time with us in the Mellow Yellow studio. Remember, our website is bubbaonthelake.com, and our message line is 308-244-5253, or as I like to say, 308-BIG-LAKE. And we always ask you to subscribe, follow, turn on notifications, and all that stuff that we need so that we can make this podcast bigger and better for you. Folks, thank you again. We appreciate you being a part of it. Until we sail into port again next time, remember, God's greatest blessing is that you're not praying for a miracle today. Take care.
You know one thing I love about Buffalo Wild Wings? You can get wings with any of their 26 sauces and dry rubs for takeout and delivery. That's like bringing an entire B-dubs home with you, which you can't do. I tried. I've knocked down so many walls, only to then be told to halt construction because I'm not zoned to be a sports bar. Kinda just looks like a big pergola or something because of the lack of walls. At least these 26 sauces and dry rubs are available to go. Buffalo Wild Wings. Let's go sports bar.
This is Coke Zero Sugar. Could I be the best Coke ever? Try and taste with your ears. Hear those bubbles? Imagine them tingling on your tongue. Fizzy deliciousness. Listen to that cascading liquid. A mouth-watering waterfall. Irresistibly tasty. Zero sugar. Crisp, refreshing, and ice cold. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? Try and decide.
This podcast is brought to you by Coke, Am First, Buffalo Wild Wings, Southern Immediate Care, Ann's Quilts, Guaranteed Labels, Central State Bank, and Sunrise Ducks.
Where's Bubba?
I'll tell you where. He's on the lake.
What is the Bubba on the Lake podcast? It's about defying peer pressure.
I mean, let's face it. Everybody's doing a podcast.
They are.
I mean, if you ain't doing one, you're the oddball out. I mean, it's like not having a tattoo now, you know?
Oh, yeah. I don't have a tattoo or a podcast.
Can I tell you?
I'm just left out in the dark.
And overcoming adversity.
I don't know. My mom is pretty funny. She's 93.
Oh, she's funny.
She can cut loose. Yeah. So.
She does stand up for us at family events.
I think that
She's
she'll
not,
try.
and she can't stand up. That's what's even funny. I mean, she can, but it's with a walker.
She does a semi-stand-up.
Yeah. You ever seen a comedian with a walker? And I mean, really need it. It's not a prop.
Download episodes now at BubbaOnTheLake.com.
Bubba